back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is before the box score. It's Auburn week. It's homecoming week. Nathan Hurst, how are you going to celebrate homecoming?
Oh, still deciding whether or not to do the parade. It's a little early this year because the game is early, which is a massive bummer. Mm-hmm. But I may hit up the recently announced happy hour at Furrow Field. They're going to be marking off beers to $3 a beer from 9:30 to 10:30 prior to the game. So I'd have to get there just a little bit early. I think that's the purpose. They want fans to get there early because of some of the construction that they've already started on the south end zone, at least outside of the stadium. So maybe it's an incentive to get folks in a little earlier than otherwise. And by all means, if you're going to give me $3 beer, I'm going to buy your $3 beer.
Absolutely. It's 9:30 somewhere. It's 9:30 there. Start drinking. Homecoming. So we'll cover the game. It's up against Auburn, Missouri's secret nemesis for the past couple of years. But we're going to talk about some roster movement. We're going to talk about some curtain stuff that we have not talked about yet. So let's start with that. Dylan Williams, I don't know if you remember him. It's a 3-star safety who had committed to Mizzou a couple months ago. He is decommitted. Committed to Kentucky, actually, of all places. So he's going to be a Wildcat, or at least that's what his intentions are, but he's not going to be a Missouri Tiger. We haven't talked about it because it just never really registered to me. He was always a bit of a wishy-washy commit, and then he wishy-washed away. Hurst, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it was nice to have him on the list of guys that wanted to play at Mizzou. 3-star safety. If you rewind back to when we talked about him over the summer when he committed, really hard hitter, a guy that would love to come downhill and lay a receiver out, lay a running back out. Didn't really know a whole lot about his coverage skills. There wasn't a whole lot of that on tape. The coaching staff wanted him. If they wanted him, then I wanted him. So, but in that sense, a bummer that he's leaving. But it's certainly not a devastating blow to this recruiting class. There are other defensive backs, more highly touted defensive backs in this class. So, wish him best of luck. We'll probably see him on the field at some point in the next few years if he stays at Kentucky. We'll see who wins in the end in that way.
Yeah. I mean, you started to get kind of a sense that maybe a safety was going to flip when the staff started offering safeties in this class. Like we already got 2. Why are we doing more? So you kind of had an idea that something like that might happen. And certainly didn't seem like the coaches were trying super hard to stop him from leaving. I mean, obviously we're not here for the conversations, but the rumors started bubbling and it was pretty quick when he flipped it, and that was it. So hey, it seemed like everyone's happy where it ended up. The coach's staff doesn't seem too broken up about it, and he seems pretty pleased to be somewhere else. So good. Yeah, let's do that. You don't want to be here, don't be here. Go live your life, man. You only get I was going to say you only get one shot at going to a school. Now you got a couple shots to get it right, but still, it's your college career. Go to the place that you want to go. Last I checked, Mizzou still has Charles Bass on the commitment list, the East St. Louis Thumper. So I'm feeling still pretty good about the safeties. And yeah, you can get one either via portal or high school recruiting. So I'm not too broken up about it, but he is not going to be part of the 2025 Missouri recruiting class as of now. So best of luck, Dylan. Let's also keep on the negative news train with the negative Nates. We want to talk about the injury update. So it was released today. And of course, Eli Drinkwitz talked earlier this week and gave some injury updates too. Before we get to the deeper ones, right now, the guys who left the game last week, talking about Luther Burden with kind of the shoulder area, he is probable to play. Nate Noel, who was held out for back spasms, is questionable. Tristan Newsom is questionable. How do we feel about these, Hurst? What's the tea leaves?
I mean, it's hard to say. It kind of seems like Nate Noel. I would be surprised if he didn't play. It seemed like he might have played had it not been UMass last week. I mean, he was already suited up. Wasn't able to loosen up as much as he wanted to. But my guess is, and my hope is that he'll be ready to play. If not, that's if there's a position that we can spare a guy for another week, it would be at running back. Marcus Carroll is perfectly capable of filling in at the lead back role, and we've got a stable of young guys that can fill in. Now, do you want Nate Noel there against an Auburn team? Absolutely. He's kind of your home run hitter as a running back, so hopefully he is able to play, but not overly concerned to be honest, one way or another with him. Tristan Newsom, on the other hand, and another story because of some of the other injuries that we'll talk about here in a bit. But it was kind of it was never said what he hurt in the first place to hold him out from last week's game. So it's really impossible to guess based on nothing but a questionable line next to his name whether or not he does play. I think this defense very much needs him to play because it's starting to thin out quite a bit with some of the other injuries that they've suffered.
Yeah, I mean, back tightness. That's a vague enough term. It's tough to tell for Mr. Noel. You don't need him for UMass. I would argue you don't really need him for Auburn for different reasons. That we'll get to once we preview the game. But you hope all your guys can play, right? You want everybody to be able to play. You want your full complement of dudes. So that's none of these are good. Luther Burden, I mean, even after the game, Drinkwitz is like, yeah, he's going to be fine. And you can take terrible shots that feel awful, and just remember that you're 21 and bounce right back and play next week. So that is possible. That's not. I don't feel like it's a stretch, and I don't think Luther is interested in sitting out any games this year, if he can help it. So yeah, Tristan Newsom is. If you look at the snaps for linebackers, even missing one game, he has the second most snaps on the team. This year, 147 from the linebacking core. So that's your dude. That's your starter. In addition to everything else. So yeah, you like to see him back, and then we'll figure out what's going on. Hopefully we hear a little bit more information, or maybe things turn around as we get towards the game. So let's talk about the long-term injuries. We heard before the game against UMass, Joe Moore was not going to play. And then of course, Khalil Jacobs stepped in for Tristan Newsom, and he left with his arm tucked into his shirt. And both of those guys are done for this season. So I don't know what happened to Joe Moore. Obviously, we saw what happened to Khalil Jacobs, but you are looking at a situation where you've lost your fourth defensive end and kind of your number 3 linebacker in Khalil Jacobs. He is the third of mostly linebackers with snaps so far this year with 139. And Joe Moore is a senior. Now he played a couple snaps into a 5th game. So I think, your standard red shirt, he is not eligible for that. He could go medical. I know Eli Drinkwitz made a joke about the NCAA and red shirts. We'll see if he's even interested in that sort of thing. For now, let's just say he's done. 74 snaps this year, 2 tackles, half a sack. That's basically it. And then for Khalil Jacobs, remember, he was a South Alabama transfer, 139 snaps, 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Both of those were sacks, 1 run stuff. And he's got at least 1 more year, 2 if he gets a red shirt for this year. The secret, though, is that Joe Moore is probably your better pressure defensive end. I know Mizzou kind of has a reputation of not being good at creating pressure, which is kind of true. Their overall pressure rate's pretty good. It's not translating into sacks, but Joe Moore, as far as pass rushing stats go, Joe Moore was kind of your good guy. He got a pressure on 12.2% of his snaps, which is 5th on the team and 3rd amongst the defensive ends. And he created a sack. He was the first pressure 3 times. That's kind of your guy who was creating that pressure on a team that's looking for it. So these are big deals. I know they weren't starters, but Hurst, this is a big deal.
They both are definitely losses. And I think Khalil Jacobs is the better player of the two in terms of at his position. But I do think Joe Moore will be the bigger loss for this team because of the lack of depth at defensive end already. They already suffered the Darius Smith injury just before the season started. So that dropped him from what was going to be a rotation of probably about 5 down to 4. Really guys you felt pretty good about. Then Joe Moore is out now. That brings you down to 3. And then you got to start bringing in the young guys, your Ja'Kai Langs, your Williams Nwaneris. One of those guys is going to have to step up now and get legitimate playing time because the 3 other guys remaining, Eddie Kelly, Zion Young, Johnny Walker Jr., none of those guys are blowing it out of the water at this point. They're playing okay, but there's going to have to. Those 3 guys are not going to be able to rotate just the 3 of them and be productive at all. So there's going to have to be at least one more guy, if not both of those guys, Winery and Lang, are going to have to step in and really produce. Do they have to have 2 sacks a game from those two guys? No, but they need to pick up the pressure rate. They need to be able to set the edge, and that's going to be the bigger loss. Khalil Jacobs, I think, probably a better player overall, and he thankfully has more time to play for him. But provided Tristan Newsom is able to get back, if not this week, then as soon as possible, I feel a little bit better about the linebacker depth with the 3 Hicks, Newsom, Flag, plus Nick Rodriguez has really been playing well as a freshman.
Sure.
And Jeremiah Beasley as well. So I feel a little bit better about the linebacker depth at this point in the season than the in depth. So we're gonna it's starting to get to the point where that if there's another guy that goes down, then you're really you've lost your depth at this point. So the next guy, knock on wood, if it doesn't happen, the next guy that does go down on that defensive front 7, that's where you're going to start seeing real problems, I think. So if we can hold off on that as long as we can, the better, because we really can't afford to lose anybody else.
So I'm actually kind of the opposite concern. I know that of the proven pieces on edge, a lot of them are gone, and it's going to be a lot of younger guys, like you said. But Ja'Kai Lang, he hasn't rushed the passer a lot, but he's got a 15% pressure rate, which is pretty good. Williams Winery, 20% pressure rate. Again, these are small sample sizes, but I wanted them to get on the field anyway. So to me, this is fine. And so far, the defensive ends haven't really been the ones who are creating the pressure. They're the ones that clean up. The reason I'm more concerned about the linebackers is for the exact same reason. Pressures. Khalil Jacobs, Tristan Newsom, those are your clubhouse leaders as far as creating pressure. Again, they aren't sent a ton, but when Khalil Jacobs goes, he's creating a pressure on the quarterback 33% of the time. That is elite territory in the nation. Same for Tristan Newsom. When he rushes the quarterback, he creates a pressure 41% of the time, almost 42% of the time. Again, those are elite pressure numbers. Pressures do not equal sacks, but over time, pressures become sacks. And now Khalil's gone for the year. Tristan is up in the air, and you're left with Chuck Hicks, who is good at tackling dudes, but not creating pressure a lot. And Corey Flagg, who's, again, a great player, but that's it. You cannot afford to have any of them go down. I do like Jeremiah Beasley. I thought Nick Rodriguez asserted himself well. He actually led the team in tackles, so kind of out on him. But the linebackers are getting asked a lot this year in the Corey Batoon system, and the defensive ends really aren't. So now I'm concerned that the linebacker playmakers are gone. So that's where I said none of these are good. Yeah. But I feel worse about the linebackers.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see which position have the young guys step up. I mean, ideally, they all step up and they all play better. I think those are great pressure rates from the linebackers. I think those are much more illustrative of the play calls, the well-timed blitzes that they are selling, rather than the skill level. Jacobs and Newsom are good players. This is not to take anything away from them, sure. But I feel like that's a position where you could fill in another guy, appoint a Corey Flagg at the quarterback and say, run at him. He's done that, in his past as well. Even a freshman you could bring in and say, on this play you're blitzing. They're not going to expect it, so there's going to be a wide open lane, and you can, even if you don't bring the quarterback down, you're going to be able to rush him off his spot. Defensive end, that's much more reliant on your physical abilities, your technique that you're using. And so losing another experienced guy, not the most productive necessarily, but using another experienced guy who has experience doing that at this level is going to hurt. I mean, as you said, they both hurt. They're not devastating, but they're both hurt, and they're kind of set this defense up to the next guy to go could be the domino that that could really hurt. So we got to kind of just hold on tight and hope that Tristan Newsom gets back soon, and that no one else goes down in the meantime.
Yeah. So, I mean, just as a snap count thing, from the linebackers, Chuck Hicks is your leader with 155. Tristan Newsom, again, he missed an entire game. He's at 147, so that tells you how much he gets used. Khalil Jacobs was technically third with 139, and then Corey Flagg was fourth with 130. Jeremiah Beasley on the year has 22 snaps. Nick Rodriguez with his big game had 42 snaps last game. Maybe you look at a Brayshawn Littlejohn, who's filling in sporadically, or Brian Huff, but that's basically it. You are already dipping into your freshman at this point there. We said heading into the year, heading into the season, 2023 taught us that you need at least 4 linebackers, and 2024 is showing us the same thing. You just lost one for the season, potentially another one who's going to battle injury for, again, potentially for the rest of the year. So who else do you have? And it's just, there's just not a whole lot there. For the edge rushers, just to go over those real quick, so you know what those are. You are snap leader for the edges is, of course, Johnny Walker Jr. with 208. Zion Young is second with 186. That is not a surprise. Those are both starters. After that, you got Eddie Kelly at 102, and then Joe Moore came in at 74. Once you get past that, Ja'Kai Lane, who saw his users increase last game, goes to 50. Williams Winery has 30 on the year. And then Jalen Brown, who we haven't talked about, but I thought did pretty well against UMass, has 27. So you are in freshman territory on the edge rushers as well. Really nowhere else you can turn. Again, I kind of like this. I know Williams Winery is not ready, but I want to see what he can do. And I like Ja'Kai Lane and Jalen Brown as well. It'd be nice to get those guys in the rotation just to get them in. Maybe they end up being good. You just never know. And for the linebackers, same thing. Jeremiah Beasley, Nick Rodriguez, let's see more of you. Brayshawn Littlejohn, excellent name. Let's see some excellent play. Drinkwitz doesn't like to play the young guys, but this is kind of where we're at. And to your point, yeah, maybe they do just blitz the freshmen. Corey Batoon says, hey, I know you can't do X, Y, and Z. Go get him, young gun. Show me what you got. And maybe it becomes more aggressive that way. So you shall see. But good luck, Khalil. Good luck, Joe. Hope you all heal up. And Joe, if you want to come back for another year, good luck getting the medical. I don't know what that's going to look like, but neither does anyone else. So we'll see how that shakes out. Okay. It's Auburn week. The bad guy Tigers from the Plains come home for homecoming to play the good guy Tigers from Faroe. Auburn's got a kind of a special place in Missouri lore. It seems, Nathan Hurst. I mean, they've only played a handful of times. Last time Missouri won was 1973, something like that. And it's been a tale of heartbreak. It goes to the SEC championship in 2013 when Auburn won a shootout against one of the better Missouri teams of all time. And it really just hasn't gotten better since then. I know you wrote a piece on kind of the history between the Tiger fight, Tiger Bowl. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, it was less a full history and more giving myself PTSD about the game in 2022 and how horrible and awful an experience that was to watch. And then some of the parallels, some kind of weird parallels between that game and this game, which I found were strange just based on the fact that both programs have gone in kind of completely different directions since that game. In 2022, if you'll remember, Brian Harsin was the coach of Auburn at the time, very much on the hot seat going into the game with Mizzou. And if Mizzou had won that game, he probably almost definitely would have been fired that week.
Yeah.
Auburn won that game through a mix of hijinks and just the most bizarre, fall on your face, comical, step on the rake and slam it against your forehead circumstances that could possibly happen to a football team in a single game. And so Harsin stuck around for 3 more weeks. They lost the next 3 weeks, and then he was out at that point. So Auburn trending down to the point where they fired their coach and had to hire a new coach. Mizzou, they lost their next couple games, but they were close. If you will remember, the very next game after that was that game here in Columbia against Georgia, number 1 Georgia. Harrison Mevis doing the robot march off the field, kicking a bunch of 50-yard field goals. Lost that one, but it was at least that game showed something. Showed Tiger fans that this team, was at least pointed in the right direction. Next week they go to Florida, lose another very close game in Gainesville. Then from then on, I think the Tigers went 4-1 the rest of the season after that. Made a bowl, lost the bowl, but headed up. Then we get to 2023. Mizzou takes off like a rocket ship. Auburn hires Hugh Freeze, very controversial hire. I mean, he has his bona fides as an SEC coach, so it wasn't like he was an out of left field hire or anything. But there's some questionable morality with him, and we won't get into that. But they very much were treading water all year. I think they went 6-6 and they got absolutely smacked in their bowl game. Coming into this season, 2-4. So Auburn has not been a strong program in the last several years. Mizzou taking off like a rock chip. 11-2 last year, 5-1 this year. But then coming into the game, coming into that game in 2022, Drinkwitz was still very much, we didn't know what we had with him, right? We didn't know what he had. We know a lot more about that now, but this team is kind of still frustrating, at least in the 2024 version. They're not what we hoped they would be at this point. They haven't shown at least what we hope they'd be at this point. Auburn scuffling still. It just kind of feels like we've gone a long way to end up right back where we are. And to be honest, I feel like this game it's certainly not going to be as weird and because it's impossible to have a game as weird as it was in 2022. But I could see it being close to as ugly, just in terms of the general unpleasant viewing experience for everyone involved. Hopefully, it'll be higher scoring than 17-14. Hopefully, it won't go to overtime. But I have a feeling that for as different a paths that both programs have led to this point, it's going to look a lot. It's going to look a lot alike that game, just in terms of neither offense really doing a whole lot that's going to get you super excited. Defense is really only playing well enough that they're shutting down offenses that aren't really able to do what they want to do for whatever reason. So we'll see. But I just found it interesting how we're kind of time as a flat circle, if you will.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough game. I previewed it like I always do for all of our opponents. That's up on rocketnation.com. You can go ahead and check it out. Auburn is a couple things. Number one, they are better than what you think. I know that right now, as an outsider, when you hear Auburn, you think terrible offense, losing to Cal, Hugh Freeze throwing his players underneath the bus. What you don't know, though, is that they've actually played really well. They played like garbage against Cal and Georgia, and they had no business winning those games. That is fair. They beat the hell out of New Mexico and Alabama A&M, as they should, 100% win post-game win expectancy. They lost to Arkansas with a 93% post-game win expectancy, and they lost to Oklahoma with a 74% post-game win expectancy. And both of those games flipped on turnovers. Okay, so Auburn is turnover prone. You can't rely on that, but they're like one of the three worst teams in the FBS. So like you kind of can. But if they don't throw anything, then they're a good team. They're a good team. If you look, the whole point of post-game win expectancy is to give you an idea of how a team played and what their record would look like long term. When you are a fan of an NBA team or an MLB team, you have the luxury of seeing these long stretches, and over time you kind of figure out what this team is because you've got 80, 100 different data points to figure out what it is. College football, you have 12, and you don't know if that's like in the middle of a hot streak or a middle of a slump. Is this, if you gave them 40 more games, what would they look like? You don't know. So that whole post-game win expectancy is giving you an idea of a quality of how a team plays. How many wins should they have versus how many wins do they have? And I got to round up a little bit, but basically Auburn is playing like a 4-2 team. You would not be overlooking a 4-2 team. You would not be sad if you lost to a 4-2 team. Like that's a good quality team. And again, that's what SP Plus does, right? It gives you an idea of the quality. They're 24th in the nation, 24th overall, 41st on offense and 25th on defense. This is a good team. It's got good athletes. It's got a lot of talent for all of his personal hang-ups and terrible behavior. Hugh Freeze can coach football really well. And so he's not very good to his players, but he can put out a good team. I do not feel good about this at all because it seems like Auburn was created in a lab specifically to beat Mizzou. And I want to talk about their defense first because their defense takes away efficiency plays tight on receivers, gives up nothing short, and asks you to basically create a big play to beat them. And that is like the antithesis of what Kirby Moore does this year. So, Nate Noel, even if you were here, you probably wouldn't be getting a lot of carries because I feel like it's got to be passes to Theo and Luther and Mookie and Speedy just to break out of that defense, stranglehold that they have. Because Nathan Hurst, I do not see this ground game getting going against this defense.
Yeah, I mean they do like to pack it in and force you to throw it over the top. If Mizzou can do that, now they have not done this all year. If they can hit a couple plays over the top, then I think you can loosen that up a little bit. And then, so it's really they're going to have to be able to pass downfield to open up the run game. It's kind of backwards from kind of traditional thought where you run the ball, then force the safeties to come up, and then you can hit them over the top. Their safeties are already going to be up close to the line of scrimmage. Their linebackers are already going to be guarding the run, guarding the short passes. So they're going to have to take downfield shots. Now they've taken a few. They have not hit them, or at least not to the full extent that they could have. This is Mizzou we're talking about here. But they're going to have to do that if they're going to score more than 10 points, because otherwise they're just going to get smothered and sat on all day. And Auburn is going to be more than happy to let Mizzou hold on to the ball and run the clock down and move the ball 25 yards in 4 minutes and then punt the ball away at their own 48-yard line or kick a really long field goal. They're more than happy with that, because that means their offense isn't turning the ball over on the other side and giving Mizzou short fields. So it's going to have to make big plays. Now they'll give up a big play or two because they play so tight. So it's not like it's impossible to come up with a big play against them. And you really only need one or two to turn a game like this. But they're going to have to hit. And I don't think it's going to be a Nate Noel run up the gut for 60 yards like they hit against Vanderbilt, which kind of gave them enough breathing room to finally hold that game off. So yeah, Theo East is going to have to strap it on and get downfield and catch a ball, and Brady's going to have to give him the ball. I mean, that's really the matchup the connection that's going to have to be there. Is they're going to have to find Theo downfield. It's just going to have to happen.
I mean, the things that count, the points per scoring opportunity, Auburn's very good at. They give up 3.6 points per opportunity, like a little bit more than a field goal. So unless you are connecting on a big play to get into the end zone, you're kicking a field goal. You're not scoring a touchdown. Within the red zone, this Auburn defense, I should be specific, 33rd in the country as far as success rate goes. Inside the 10, they're 34th best defense. From the 11 to 20, the 21 to the 30, they're 33rd best defense as well. Like they don't give you anything. First and goal success rate, 27th. Like if you're in there, you're not creating a big play, so you're not doing well. And they're not even super havocy. Like the defensive line gets sacks, tackles for loss, but it's not even like blowing things up. It's just good defense. And DJ Durkin, who's his own terrible human being, is the guy who calls defense there. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a terrible person. If you can coach football well, you'll always have a job. And here we are. So it's going to be tough. It's really funny. Their entire defense is like 6'1". I think like over half the guys are 6'1", but they're all very good. There's a couple of 5 stars and 4 stars littered around there. They're good defense. They're very good. And for an offense like Missouri's, who carve up UMass but have literally no answer to Texas A&M, Auburn is more like Texas A&M. I don't know what the answer is here. We can sit here and say, well, you got to do this, you got to scheme this, blah, blah. Okay, are they going to be able to execute? Are they going to be ready for that sort of thing? Like, my hang up, Nathan Hurst, is that I've seen this game already and it went poorly. How do you feel about our chances here?
There are a couple of big differences. Than A&M, and most importantly, it's in Columbia.
Yeah.
And B, so Texas A&M's defensive line is elite. Like I'm not sure if there are 3 other defensive lines in the country that have the amount of talent that they have on that defensive line.
South Carolina.
Excuse me. Auburn has good players on their defensive line. Keldrick Falk has 5 sacks and he's a defensive tackle. That's pretty major numbers there. They have good players on the defensive line, but they are not Texas A&M's elite talent. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't stop you really in your tracks cold, but they are not individually as you go down the line. That guy's, you go down to Texas A&M's defensive line, that guy scares the crap out of me. That guy scares the crap out of me. That guy scares the crap out of me. And then and then you finally get to Nick Scorton. It's like that guy could wreck the entire game by himself. Auburn doesn't really have any, have that level of, across the board. So if they can find a hole, whether that's, the left side's working this today, the right side's working today, and at least maybe if they start rolling Brady out, if they need to do that to give him release some pressure while he's throwing, figure out what direction they can do that, then I think they'll have a little bit more leeway than they did against Texas A&M. Also, hopefully the game script doesn't just completely crush them in the first 5 minutes like the Texas A&M game did as well. Yeah. So being in Columbia, I think even if they do suffer a terrible penalty or no call against them, they'll have, some emotional support from the sidelines that they didn't have in College Station. But your point is still very valid that this is a very good defense. It's going to be a challenge, no doubt. What makes it worse or makes it harder, I don't know, worse or not, is that because you mentioned the national perception of this Auburn team, and probably the perception of most Mizzou fans, is that this is a kind of a joke of a team, right? They get close to winning. They step on a rake and smacks them in the face. They do something dumb. They throw a very ill-timed interception, pick six against Oklahoma. They were well on their way to winning that game. They turned the ball over 4 times against Arkansas, just an outrageous amount. Or maybe it's just 4 interceptions. I don't know. An outrageous number of turnovers against Arkansas, despite really controlling that game as well. And that's the national perception. But this team is more than just those really dumb plays. Now, have they done those dumb plays? Yes. But you cannot, as a opposing team, rely on them continuing to do those really dumb things in the worst possible situations. That is not, hoping and wishing is not a game plan for success. So they're going to have to figure out a way to prevent that, having to rely on that, because at some point Auburn's going to figure it out in terms of they're not going to throw that horrible interception, or they're not going to fumble the ball at the wrong time, and they're going to knock somebody off, and it's going to look bad. It's kind of like beating playing a really good G5 team where, we should absolutely beat them. They're a G5 team, but if you lose to the G5 team who's good, that it's still, you get no credit for that at all, because, perception is that you should be beating that team all the time. Yeah. Now, Auburn is much better than a G5 team. I'm not calling Auburn a G5 team, but it's the similar perception, at least this year, in terms of the perception.
Right. So, you talked about the offense. Let's talk about them. It's good. They can move the ball. I know Peyton Thorne gets a lot of crap for being a very mid quarterback. And of course he was benched for Hank Brown for 40 snaps and then promptly unbenched because Hank Brown stunk, or was perceived to stink. Here's the story with Auburn's offense. Very good on the ground, very good through the air. One of the best explosive offenses on the planet that has the worst turnover margin in the country. The worst. Expected turnovers is 11. That's 124th. Their actual turnovers, 15. That is the worst in the country. Expected turnover margin, if you run these plays and do make these throws, how much would you expect to be? They should be at -3, -4. That's bad. Their actual turnover margin is -11. So they've given the ball away 15 times. They've only turned teams over 4 times. Their turnover luck is absolutely atrocious. It's a minus touchdown, basically. So yeah, it's a problem. It's a huge problem, and it's why they lose games. But if they don't turn it over, it's a functional offense that does the thing that Mizzou's defense doesn't do well. Connect on big plays. That is what they do. They're almost too reliant on it, but it works because they have their NIL funds. If you put them on the sliders, right? They've put everything in skill position players, put a little bit on the line, and did nothing for quarterback. So you have Peyton Thorne, who's got, it's the Ken Dorsey effect, right? It's an extremely mid quarterback who is elevated by the fact that he's got tremendous players around him, including Cam Coleman. Now the receivers they're a little bit dropsy, but they also tend to just go deep and throw it deep. So there's a lot of drops that get associated with that. And Peyton Thorne is not the most accurate. But again, if it connects, you are screwed. and they connect a lot more than you think, both ground explosiveness and then air explosiveness. So I don't know what to say. Again, this is an offense bred to do one thing, which is murder Mizzou's defense. And if the turnovers don't happen and the explosive plays happen, this could be 28, 35 points that they put up on the board out of freaking nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the game where you start to really worry about the secondary. They've kind of patched together for the most part this season. It hasn't, the secondary hasn't been great, but they haven't really been a huge problem with the exception of, Texas A&M. This is a game where you could really see some problems developing, especially a guy like Keandre Lambert-Smith. That dude averages 21 yards per catch. He has 24 catches, so that's a pretty good amount. That's a lot of yards that he's putting up, 6 touchdowns. Cam Coleman averages 23.5 yards per catch. Now he only has 9 catches because he's been a little injured, but I think he's planning on playing this week. So they like
a 45% catch rate, which is not good.
Yes, not great. But he's going deep every time, and so you're not going to have a great catch rate when you're going downfield 40 yards every time. And all it takes is hit 1 or 2 of those and flip a field, and that can completely change the game. Same thing for Mizzou. If Mizzou can do that, it's gonna you're gonna make it's gonna help a lot. Auburn does the same thing, and they've actually hit on some of those plays that Mizzou has not hit on so far this year. So, as I said, they turn the ball over a lot, but you cannot rely on that. And this Mizzou defense isn't one that is, extra great at forcing turnovers. They've gotten a few. It's not like they're terrible at it, but you can't rely on just hanging around and waiting for them to screw up and hoping that eventually that they're going to do something dumb, make a bad throw, make a bad read, drop a pass, deflect a pass into the waiting arms of a linebacker, whatever that may be. You just can't rely on that. So the cornerbacks are going to have to tighten it up. Drayden Norwood's going to have a very important day. I don't know if they're going to have him shadow somebody or just play on the side of the field, but he's going to have to be careful or not get beat deep. Because I'm worried that the other side of the field from him is going to give up a play or two. So they've got to tighten it up.
So when you talk about success rates when it comes to receivers, you have to take into catch rate as part of that too. Okay, because there's catching the ball for the yards, and then there's how many times you are targeted. So if you have a player who's got 100 yards in a game, wow, that's great. If he got that over 10 passes, cool. That's 10 yards per catch. If he did that over 30 targets, that's not good. That's 60% of your passes getting nowhere. That's not an efficient one. You would rather have someone who goes 8 for 8 for 80 yards than, one for 10 for 100 yards, right? Like that's too many. It's a wasted economy by throwing to that guy. Just take the explosive play out, right? So when you talk about success rate with receivers, you have to take catch rate into mind. Keandre Lambert-Smith is a problem because and really all these receivers are a problem because their catch rates and success rates are nearly identical, which means if they are catching the ball, it is a successful play, which as a reminder is 50% of the yards on first down, 70% of the yards on second down, and 100% of yards on third and fourth down. So you have a receiver with a 59% success rate. That's incredible. 21 yards per catch. That's Keandre Lambert-Smith. 24 catches, 510 yards, 6 touchdowns, only 37 targets. If he catches the ball, it is a first down 75% of the time. I just want to say that again. He has 24 catches. If he has the ball, if he grabs the ball out of the air, it is a first down 75% of the time. That is incredible. Okay. He is a problem. Cam Coleman, he's a drop artist, but again, 45% catch rate, 40% success rate. If the ball is in his hands, it is a successful play, and he is getting a first down 88% of the time. Again, this is nuts. If you want a comparison, if you want to get a good idea of what that means, let's look at Missouri real quick. Who was their highest as first down per reception? First down per reception is Luther Burn at 58. That's their best guy. And they have 2 guys over that by quite a bit. That's how Auburn works. Drop, 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 first down. except for Keandre Lambert-Smith, who catches almost everything, 65% of the stuff. Rivaldo Fairweather, the tight end, problem. 53% success, catch rate, 42% success rate, 57% of his catches go for a first down. He's already got 189 yards on 14 catches. They're not accurate, and they throw a lot of interceptions, but if they catch the ball, you are screwed. It's an explosive-based offense. And on the ground game, Jarquez Hunter is averaging nearly 7 yards per carry and a 48% success rate. If he actually gets 5 yards after contact, that's bad. That means he just absorbs a hit and goes. Now, they're the worst at getting hit behind the line, but even if he gets behind the line, he goes 5 yards after that. So this is an offense that will get what they want. The only way you get stops is by turning them over, which they sometimes do, and they're not the most accurate, but you have to hope for them to be inaccurate, and you have to hope for them to turn the ball over. And they're a 3-point shooting team. If they get hot, you're screwed. And I don't know if they're going to get hot on Saturday or not, but Corey Batoon has to find a way to keep him cold.
It's not a fun job being a defensive coordinator, especially in the SEC. So he gets paid a lot of money to do that, but I don't necessarily envy that job, especially with some of the injuries that we discussed earlier.
Yeah,
that just is another layer on top of everything else.
Just a bad time, man. Just a bad time.
So this is going to be the first game where the secondary is really going to potentially be a problem. Now, they weren't good against Texas A&M, but no one was good against Texas A&M. The secondary could have been locked down, and the Mizzou still would have lost by 3 touchdowns. So this is the one where it could go wrong very quickly if they're not able to lock it down. And even if they do, expect Auburn to still hit 1 or 2 big plays, because that's just they're going to take enough bites at the apple. They're going to get there eventually.
So what this game means for the season is a lot. The 23 team would win this game. They would find a way. The 22-21 teams, they would find a way to lose this game. In fact, they did. In 22, they found a way to lose the game twice. This goes a long way to determine what this season is going to be. And this is going to go a long way in determining Eli Drinkwitz's tenure here and how we view it. If you win this game, all of your goals are still on the table. You can make a dark horse run at the SEC. You can still be within the shouting distance of the playoff. You can do all those things. Hell, you can even lose to Alabama and still have that happen. If you win this game, all of a sudden it's the comeback, right? Gritty Tigers, you white knuckle your way through a win. You find a way to win against a plucky underdog in Auburn. Okay. If you lose, all of your goals that you talked about rely on you beating Alabama on the road and not losing a single game going forward. Okay, now you also probably can't lose a game if you win this game, but it's a little. There's one more mulligan built in, we think. And then you're looking at, okay, then the conversation goes, was Eli Drinkwitz a flash in the pan? Or was he legit? Yes, he raised the national recruiting profile. Yes, he's been able to improve Mizzou on the field, but we saw one season with wins, and now what? You had all these expectations coming in. We put in a lot of money to get that push to the playoff, and what are we getting out of that? All of a sudden, that's what the conversation turns to. We talked about this last year a lot. This is where I'm saying it again. This is the most important game of the season so far, because you have to right the ship. You have to show that you can play in the SEC. And it's going to be a tough test.
Definitely. This is a program win or program game, a program defining game, should I say, for this program. There are plenty of those that they had last year, but this is the next year. This is where you solidify, where you want that program to be. And as you said, you lose this game, there's not a whole lot to say that you aren't going to lose to Alabama. There's not a lot to say you aren't going to lose at South Carolina. And then all of a sudden you go from, hey, we could go 11-1 and make the playoff to 8-4 is a season that we're striving to get at this point. And that would be a disappointment, I think, in everybody's eyes if you're a Mizzou fan. This is a program defining game in terms of, is this program where we think it is or where we think it can be or should be, or is it not? Were we just deluding ourselves? Was last year just a magic run? And we somebody sprinkled some fairy dust on it, and we started flying, and we come back down to earth. That's what this game is going to determine, because a program that is where we hope this program wins this game, and you don't have to win it by 20 points, but if this program is where we think it is, this Mizzou team will win this game. They will take care of business, and move on to next week. If they don't win this game, then it's not where we're hoping this program is. And will it ever get there? We don't know. Will it get there this year? Probably not. It means we're just pushing that down to the next season and the next season and the next season, trying to find consistency and solidify our place in this new college football world. So it's a really big game. We said Texas A&M was a really big game 2 weeks ago, and it was, because that did define the season. The Texas A&M game went a long way in defining what the season was going to be. This game goes a long way in defining what this program is.
Yeah. So no pressure, guys. Let's do predictions. You can give a score or not. Is he going to win?
It's going to be ugly. It's not going to be a pretty game. And that may include both teams hitting a couple 40-yard passes. And, typically you think of that and you think pretty, but yes, Mizzou's going to win. It's going to be close, though. I mean, it's going to be very close. And actually, Mizzou might have a nice 9-point lead, but that gets cut to 2 late in the game. So I'm going to go, yes, Mizzou wins, but it's going to be a weird, 23-21 type of game.
Okay. I am going to say Missouri wins. What do I want the score? I'm going to say 28-23. Just funky numbers make you uncomfortable. Auburn's got the ball with 2 minutes to go, and you're like,
yeah. I mean, I whatever happens is going to end with Auburn with the ball at the end of the game, and you're just holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
Perhaps Eli Drinkwitz chose to kick a field goal when we thought that he should have gone for it late in the game. Maybe he chose to punt instead of kick the field goal or go for it. Or, there was going to be some sort of a questionable decision made that's just going to make the game that much more stressful down the end.
Yep.
Someone's going to miss an extra point.
Yeah.
At some point. I don't know which team, but there will be a missed extra point at some point, just to make it an extra weird and gross score. So yeah. Mizzou's going to win very close. It's not going to be a super fun game till the very end when the zeros are on the clock.
Just win. Have one more point than the opposition. That's all I'm asking. Well, I hope you are comfortable watching the game. I hope you isolate those that you love if you're one of the screaming types, or bring them around you if you need the support. This is going to be a rough watch, but that's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you guys. You can follow us on Twitter at Matt and H. Edwards. He's at Burst to Hurst. Of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcast and outlet at Rock M Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.